Hello, I'm the Movie Geek, and tonight I'm going to be talking Alien Covenant again. Alien Covenant is the sixth film to be released within the Alien franchise. Alien was made in 1979, and despite being an excellent film, it's fair to say that the franchise didn't take off until James Cameron's 1986 Alien, although not for the lack of trying on Fox's part. That's not to say that Alien didn't make its mark. It obviously did. It was a perfect blend of sci-fi and horror. It was brilliant, and without it, it wouldn't have endured for 40 years. As it stands, we've got Aliens, Alien 3, or Cubed, Alien Resurrection, and then we've got two Alien vs Predator films, which, to be fair, is... the first one was okay. Covenant will follow on from, and has released footage that links it closely to Prometheus, and is said to bridge the gap between Prometheus and Alien. Directed by the returning Ridley Scott, it is the first of three sequels that will chart the story of who created the Xenomorph. This seems to have been what he wanted to do after the first Alien back in 1979. Instead, it went to James Cameron and he continued with the Ripley story. But Ridley Scott has always wanted to find out who the space jockey was and where they came from. And he followed through with Prometheus, which, to be fair, I didn't actually mind. I thought it was a good film. Obviously there were points in that film that were just ridiculous. Like two lost scientists try and make friends with a massive snake. It wouldn't happen. You wouldn't put your hand near that. It was good visually. The way he combined sci-fi and horror, again, was just perfect. Exactly the same as Alien. He did it really well, but there was just some points in that film. And to be fair, there are some points in this film that tread the same lines. You get some character decisions that don't make sense. Not as much as Prometheus. Covenant seems to be a hell of a lot more cleaner. It seems to flow. The Covenant is a colony ship carrying over 2,000 colonists to the planet Origai 6. Something happens on the way and the crew are awoke. They discover a signal to a planet very reminiscent of Alien and Prometheus, and they decide to have a look and see what it is, because it seems to have better living conditions than the planet that they were heading for. Once they get there, there is complete disregard to any quarantine procedures. That's my only problem with Covenant, is the fact that they don't seem to wear spacesuits, except when they're in space. It doesn't make sense. You're travelling to a new planet and you're not taking precautions. Even now, when you go to a foreign country, you have to take tablets or get inoculations just to make sure you're not sick when you go to wherever you're going. But yeah, once they get there, all hell breaks loose and the usual ensues. And this is where the film's tone changes. It's where you get some Prometheus, but you can clearly see that Ridley Scott has gone for bridging that gap between Prometheus and the original. You can see where it changes. It just, the pace quickens, the creatures arrive, and the body count rises, and it just becomes an Alien film. That's not to say there isn't storylines from Prometheus continuing. There is, and I would argue that they are the best part of Covenant. I would argue that the continuation of what happened in Prometheus is better than the addition of the Xenomorph or the Neomorph. I would have much preferred to see what they had originally planned for the sequel of Prometheus rather than what we got. I'm not saying that I didn't like what we got. I did. I thought it was really, really good. But Prometheus, for me, had different story. It was going in a different direction to where Alien started. It would have been nice to have seen everything that happened in those 10-year period. Other than that, the action was good. Just the feel of the film was was brilliant. I love the way that Ridley Scott, the way he has his lighting, the way he makes every set different. You've got scenes in a forest, you've got scenes on the engineer ship, which is beautiful. From Prometheus, it just stood out. It was like it was grown. It was an organic spaceship. It was completely alien, and that is what made Prometheus stand out. And we get a good look at the engineer ship. We also get a good look at other places. There's a temple, and again, this is it's organic, but it's different from the engineer ship. You've got the Covenant ship, which is very, very reminiscent of the Nostromo. I forgot what it was then. You have like additions and nods to Alien, where you've got Mother is back, and the dipping bird water thing. I'm not too sure what they're called. And it is just good that they've brought that stuff back. But the ship itself seems a lot more lived in than the ship from Prometheus, where no one knew each other. They woke up from hypersleep and they didn't know each other. They weren't there to make friends, they were there to make money. I should have known it's Scottish accent, but you know. Yeah. But this time it felt lived in. The crew, as I mentioned before, one of the prequels that was released, oh, I might not have mentioned it before, one of the prequels that was released was the crew going into hypersleep, and it showed them as more or less a family. So it gave us that setting. The ship is lived in. It's not this sterile spaceship for the rich. It is a colony ship for workers going to build a new life on a new planet. And it works. I also found the hook that attracted the crew of the Covenant to the planet out was a lot cleaner than what we saw in Prometheus. They're all very similar if you think about it. You've got archaeologists finding these cave paintings that are pointing to a military installation of the engineers, which it's a little bit iffy. But then you've got Alien, where they're woken up from hypersleep to receive a distress call, and then you've got Covenant, which is something happens and then they wake up. They've got to fix the ship, and then once the ship is fixed, they receive a signal which attracts them to the planet. They're all very similar. There's a lot of scenes and storylines that seem very, very similar. And to be fair, the final third of the film is just Alien. But like I said, the hook, the thing that attracts them to this planet seems a lot cleaner. It seems a lot less engineered. So yeah, it's got that going for it. There wasn't much to complain about. There was a few niggles. I don't really want to go into detail. There were a lot of horror cliches going on as well, where you could tell which crew members were the red shirts, and every time something was about to happen, you could see it coming a mile away, because they'd either go for a cigarette or leave the group by going for a wash or a walk, or to find someone else, or to have sex in the shower. You know, horror tropes that are well known. They were used in this film, but it didn't take you out of the film. It worked. It was very, very good. It was well done. You cannot argue that Ridley Scott doesn't know how to shoot film. He really does, even using well-worn tropes. It's very, very good. Other than the lack of spacesuits, one of the other things that not annoyed me but niggled me a little bit was the use of CGI for the neomorphs. I didn't think they looked very good, but I suppose the way that they moved, they couldn't have done it any other way unless they were going to use the same technique that they used in Alien 3. However, the Xenomorph was a good mix of CGI and practical effects. Some of the scenes with the Xenomorph was good. It looked particularly real, so there's that. Ridley Scott is the master of crafting a film that is atmospheric and, to be honest, fairly scary. He uses light to full effect. Like, as I mentioned, every location distinct and unsettling feeling. You've got the ship that is lived in. It's not as clean and bright as the Prometheus ship. It does feel lived in. You've got the engineer ship that is wet and overgrown. As mentioned, I said it looks organic and grown. It could be part of the mountain, and it just makes it feel natural because of how long it's been there. So it's very organic. Every setting has a distinct feel of its own, and it makes you feel like they have travelled the distance that they've travelled. The continuation of the Prometheus story is very well executed, and the interactions with between the two synthetics is probably my favourite part of the film. The final act is also very well done, although it is a little bit familiar. It seems like they were either referencing Alien, all the other Alien films, or they've just kind of run out of ideas towards the end. But it does bridge the gap between Prometheus and Alien, and I think that's what he's been trying to do. Now bear in mind, this is the first of, what, 3 more sequels? The final one will link up to Alien, so, and seeing the end of it, you've got to wonder how far he's going to go to get to that point. And I'm looking forward to it. I think there's 14 months until the next film starts production. All in all, Scott has brought his A-game back, and he has created a atmospheric and well-crafted, enjoyable horror sci-fi film. Yeah, and I think if he carries on this way, I think the other sequels can be as good. I'm hoping so. I would say go and see it, because you're going to get that atmosphere in the cinema. I'm the Movie Geek. Please like, share and subscribe. You can follow me on Facebook and WordPress. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.